Hello and welcome to Opening the Gates to More Listings for Estate Agents with me, Simon Gates. I'm delighted to be joined today by Laila Safaee. Laila,
You've
thank
got
you
it.
very much for joining me.
You got it right.
Did I first time?
Thanks for having me.
Hey, you're very welcome. So I say this on nearly every other podcast episode I record, but I talk about the digital world we now live in and like meeting people. So
Yeah.
to start off with, you remember meeting me for the first time at Wembley, where I was that crazy guy who came up to you and were like, I know you from social media. And you're probably thinking, who the hell is this guy?
Do you know what? Actually, it's the first time I've been approached, but the way you did it and your manner, it was so charming, polite, and I've got all the time for that. Obviously, that was the first time we'd like properly engaged, obviously in person. But I like your style. That really impressed me, actually. It was like,
Oh.
was it pre-planned? Because I was like on the breakfast bar with,
No, I was sat there having a coffee, minding my own business. And then yeah, I think you were kind of at a breakfast bar just past where I was sitting. And I just was like, I've seen her a lot on social media. I'm just gonna say hello. And I was probably having a bit of a coffee buzz because I'd had like a few cups of coffee and thought,
oh my
I was just
God.
gonna say hello.
No, I'm so pleased you did because then obviously I looked into what you do and you're a very impressive man. So I'm so pleased you reached out to me.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. Well, look, you're very impressive because I've got a list here of like all these things you have going on, and it's hard to keep up when I like follow you on social. So, first question for you, and this is a selfish question: how do you manage to fit everything in? So, like professionally, personally, friends, family, your own like mental well-being. Like, what's one key bit of advice you could give on that?
What, while juggling everything?
Yeah.
Do you know what? I'm still on that journey. Probably in the last 12 months, I have got a better handle. If I'm completely honest, I'm not 100% sure that I'll ever fully have it together and have a
Yeah.
structure because how do I say this? Like, uh, it's just like an ongoing learning journey for like me as well. Like, I've definitely managed, I'm at a point now, 8 years later, after setting up my main company, the Silver Birch Agency, finally got that balance between like well-being and work, as in having some me time. Do you know what? I completely contradict myself though. I get I've got two phones. I walk around. I look like a fucking drug dealer. Like I'm usually always in, if I'm not with a new client, I'm always in a tracksuit walking around with two phones. And the reason I have two phones, for example, is so I could switch off my work phone at night. That was my intention, let's say, and then just be on my personal phone. But it doesn't work. So what I'm trying to say is I'm still learning. I've definitely got a better balance. I was forced to find that better balance because I have literally spent my whole life thinking I was like unstoppable. So I do take on and bite off more than I can chew all of the time. I don't regret a bloody thing, but I'm still working it out. But I do recognize because my hand's been forced on a couple of occasions, just due to you know the impact of doing so much that I've had a couple of scares where I've gone, okay, I really have to factor in a little bit of me time, whether that's exploring new hobbies and or doing sea dipping or just try and have, some me time. I'm a work in progress. But
Yeah.
I guess if I could give anyone any advice, it would be, it's really hard because the most successful people, like, I'm not describing myself here necessarily, but like the most successful people in business, like they thoroughly enjoy and love what they do. So there isn't a right, I recommend you turn your phone off at 5 p.m. Well, that would really depress me.
Hmm.
Like, I don't want to turn my phone off at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. and switch off. That doesn't work in my industry. Like, recently, I went to Jason Vale's juice retreat. By the way, I'm sorry if I go 100 miles an hour and off on a tangent. Like, most obviously have ADHD, right?
That's
But
something I want to cover off as well with you, actually.
on that point, right? I haven't had a proper holiday. I take long weekends because it's weird, but I'm never manic at the weekend. So actually, I'm always available because I never like to lose opportunities, whether that's talking to a new person or a new client or whatever. But I've not really had a proper holiday in a really long time. So on my sort of journey over the last 12 months, having had a bit of a scare due to it, an incredible amount of stress, um, I took myself to Jason Vale's retreat in Portugal. Now, most people think I'm barking mad. You go there, you don't eat, you're just juicing, you're exercising probably 4 times more than you would. You're doing like 4 hours of exercise minimum a day. Um, no alcohol, God, me 6 years ago would have gone piss off. Like I would never do something like that. Anyway, I went on that retreat. Now, that has been like the most pivotal part of my life so far. It's been life changing. But the point of what I'm getting at, going back to where we were, is I did one of the biggest deals of my career while stood in a bikini at that retreat. I was still speaking to my team every day, doing meetings. In fact, people that would walk past my cocoon tent that I was staying in, they'd like catch me at the pool later, and they're like, "This is like the bloody apprentice. This is hilarious." Because obviously, I wouldn't want to implode on people's peaceful time. So I'd never be rude and like making calls at the pool. But what I would do is I'd start the day. I'd probably go do yoga or something at 6 in the morning. And then I was about to say I'd have a coffee, but you weren't allowed coffee either. So that's a lie. And then I'd call the girls, get them prepped for the day. And of course, people would hear these conversations. So the point I'm getting at is I ended up extending because I had such a great time and I actually managed to relax and have me time. But I would have been really depressed had I have been disconnected from my business because I bloody love it. So the truth is, everyone's so different, aren't they? You've just got to find what works for you. Some people might need to switch off at 5 o'clock. I personally don't. That would make me really bloody miserable. So there we go. I'm going to shut up now.
It's really interesting what you said, and I know you know this, but I went to watch the Chris Williamson live thing
Yes.
recently,
Oh,
which
I'm
was
gutted I couldn't go to that.
hey, next time. So I was there with the VIP Q&A beforehand, and I asked him the question of I was like, Chris, you've gone from America to Australia on tour. You've now come to the UK doing this. So I was like, you've got multiple businesses, you wear multiple hats. Like from the outside looking in, your life looks perfect. Like, how do you do it? And he's just like, dude, it's not perfect. He's like,
No.
business is flying. I've got 3 million subscribers to my podcast. He's in unbelievable shape. But he was like, my my mental health, my friends, my relationship. He's like, I don't have a missus. He was like, I'm struggling with how understanding this success and fame that he's had. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I wanted to hear. And it's also what I wanted to hear from you then, because it's like, if someone said, I've got it all sorted out, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Well, it'd be a load of bullshit.
Yeah. And it's
I'm
kind of like when you were talking, it made me think of like you look at kind of above the water and you see the like elegant swan, but beneath the water, do you know what I mean? Like all the legs
Yeah.
flapping crazily. Um,
Yeah.
and
Well, it's
what,
true. On that note, everything you've just said is completely relatable. So I'm 33, I'm single. Whilst I've completely dedicated myself to my business, it it is very difficult to navigate relationships. That doesn't mean that I don't want to meet someone, but the truth is, like, I've done so much work on myself personally, that I'm aware that when you go into a relationship, like, you have to commit to that person. You have to give them 100% to make it work. It is fucking impossible to do it all. And at the moment, at this point in my career, like my business and my ventures need 100% of my attention, my energy, my absolute everything. So I'm just about managing that alongside trying not to regain all the weight that I've gained in the past and doing all of those things, just so yeah, my journey has been trying to work on myself mentally, which I have struggled in the past, and grow myself within my industry, my personal brands and stuff like that. I mean, hopefully the right person comes along, but I don't have children either. So that, it's like a blessing and a curse. Like choose what you're like. Do you know what I mean? Choose what you want. I'm at peace. Like a lot of people, um, you know, their life goal is to be a mum, and bloody hell, that might be one of the hardest jobs ever. Like to me, that's terrifying because I'm like, impossible to be an amazing mum for me because of I literally have sold my soul to my company, right? But then I get to enjoy my friends' children. I get to enjoy my nephew. Like, I'm at peace that I may or may not have children. I never say never about anything, like having a partner. Obviously, I'd love a partner, but how could I give someone 100% right now where I have to be up at 5 in the morning just to get my fitness in, just to be able to get all of these different like
Yeah.
businesses running and give people support and do all of that. And at the moment in my journey, that's the most important thing. So yeah, 100%. Like you can't have it all. And I feel for people that are juggling all of those things because funny enough, my friend and now business partner in another company that I've launched, she does have a dog. She has two dogs. She has a partner that adores her and is very understanding. She's also currently full-time employed by me at one of my companies, and I've just given her 50% of another business. And we sat down and we had some serious conversations about it. And she said, Layla, like, I love working with you. I've grown so much as a person. I love you as a friend. I'm so excited about the new business, but I can't fucking do it. She was like, I can't. She was like, I'm either employed by you and I don't do this business, or we go all in on the business and you can't have me full-time employed because I'm going to lose my relationship. Like, because I haven't got any time for Carl. And I was like, you're 100% fucking right. And sometimes you've got to have a think. I'm very self-aware that, and I'm really blessed that, communication is key. Like we've got a friendship of over a decade and we've worked together and, she feels comfortable enough to communicate that to me. God, if she didn't, this could be a partnership in the future that would be a disaster. But she was like, we need to seriously think about this because I love my partner and he also understands there are going to be times where I have to prioritize my business. But like, it's really interesting starting these new like journeys with people and like hearing what it's like, for other people. Because for me, I don't have a dog. I don't have a partner. So sometimes I have to sit back and go, hang on a minute, Layla. Like, not everyone I used to get so frustrated with people like, why aren't you as quick as me? Why
Yeah.
can't you do 100 million things at once? But then I have to go, do you know what, Layla? I've learned to just be quiet for a minute, which is really hard, and think, right, they've got responsibilities that you don't have. So
Yeah.
you can be available 24/7 and around the clock and drop things and jump on a plane and go and see people, but they can't because they have responsibilities. So yeah, it's bloody hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think, yeah, I don't have children, so I'm in a position right now where I can be incredibly selfish. I don't have
Yes.
like I same with like friends having kids and being able to go enjoy them, but then go, right, see you later, I'm off home now. Whereas, if I need to, yeah, get up at 5 or 6 in the morning and work, or if I want to go for drinks and be like, oh, it's fine, I can just go for a few drinks. I don't need to think, hang on a minute, I've got a
Yeah.
baby that needs to go. So yeah, no, I completely get that.
Well,
And
it's a huge commitment, isn't it? Like children are beautiful and really special, and I get it.
yeah,
So, but
I think it's so like the conversation we've had so far, it's very different to the usual conversations agents would hear on this podcast, which is a good thing in my opinion because look, it's called opening the gates to more listings, and I sometimes like go, people might be listening, going, what the hell has this conversation got to do with opening the gates to more listings? However, what we've discussed so far, I think will resonate with so much people because you've got to have your mindset right to even get up every day, open doors to your business, go in people's living rooms and build a business. So and on that point, I just want to ask, so there's a couple of things you've alluded to. So fitness journey, you mentioned
yeah.
about that. So what was the trigger where you went, shit, I need to do something about this.
So I just pre-lockdown, without going into too much unnecessary detail, but I was going through a separation. And that year leading up to lockdown, the truth is, and I'll openly talk about this because I feel like it will be really beneficial to people. I was very unhappy. I mean, I had my business, which I launched in 2017, 18, 19. So my business had been running about 2 years. So we were in the very early days and I was still figuring it out. It's given I didn't want to ever launch the company on my own anyway. I launched with a business partner that failed after 2 months. And it was a big old scary thing for me. And I was just navigating the early stages of business. Back to it. I was in a really unhappy relationship. And I chose to hide. Let me try and think of the right words for this. Put it this way, I was so unhappy, I would finish work, go straight to a restaurant or a pub and start drinking. So I wasn't on my own, but I would be socializing perhaps with even people that I didn't really want to socialize with just because
Yeah.
I, you know, most of my friends were in relationships or whatever, they weren't available as readily available. And I was like growing this business, I was becoming known and I was miserable at home. So I didn't want to go home. So I'd start drinking. Then I would make sure that I was so drunk, like 2 bottles down a day, that I could just go home and just go to sleep and I wouldn't have to deal with the shit that was going on. That's the truth. Now, there's so long you can sustain that. I mean, then you wake up in the morning and you feel like shit, but you've got to show up to work. I have always shown up to work, always. So then I would prioritize my work over my fitness and perhaps eating well. And then it doesn't take long before you're fasting all day because you're working, then you're going straight out, you're having dinner, maybe not the best choices because you're eating out every night. Then it's very easy to sink a bottle of wine over dinner and then have a couple more drinks while you're socializing at the bar before you go home. Now, then, you're having such a great time some of those nights, you carry on a little bit later and then maybe you get a kebab and then you go home and then you feel like shit. So you don't get up and train. And then it doesn't take long before the weight piles on. And I gained, no word of a lie, about 4 stone.
Wow.
I mean, when I look at videos now of myself, I don't recognize that person. So this went on for about, let's say 12 to 18 months. So I separated. We then went into lockdown. I was shitting myself because I had 4 members of staff. I didn't furlough any of them, by the way, because I was so pig-headed. In my mind, I thought, I'm going to be the only agent that survives this. And I didn't think it like that, but I was like, I want to show some strength. I'm not going to furlough my staff. I'm going to keep them employed and blah, blah, blah. I mean, what a fucking idiot decision that was. I mean, that was, yeah, so naive. Anyway, I had that going on and I was like, I'm going to, I don't know what's going to happen with my business. It was a terrifying time for so many people. There were agents that were open, wow, longer than I've been born,
Yeah.
closing down left, right, and centre. So there was that going on. And it was Boxing Day, actually, in 2020, because we were still in lockdown, weren't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I realised that I'd been going around with filters on my face and all my stories and stuff. And there was a video of me dancing around the kitchen with friends and family. And I looked at this video that didn't have a filter on it and I went, who the fuck is that? It's like I'd had my love goggles on and I didn't actually realise what had happened. And I went, holy shit. And I went and stood and looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my fucking God, this isn't just a vanity thing. I was like, I look unwell. Like I'm happy. I, recently separated, like I was finding my way with my business, but I was like, holy shit, what the fuck happened like that? So literally that day I said, I'm stopping drinking. So I didn't drink for a month. I quit smoking. I went and had a private blood test and Jesus Christ, did that slap me in the face. When I saw the health implications of what I had done, it
Yeah.
shook me to my core. And I thought, this isn't just about vanity because I've been having like a semi-fun time. Like it's not that hadn't affected my confidence until that moment. Um, it was the health. And I was like, I really don't want to die at like 40. And the way my stats are looking is quite concerning. So that was it, 10,000 steps a day. Obviously, it was a little bit easier because obviously life was a bit strange then, wasn't it?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I went straight into trying different forms of exercise. So I was committed 100% to 10,000 steps a day. I would do like online Pilates classes, bar classes. I wasn't really sure what I liked. So that's one massive bit of advice I would give anyone. And I tell people all the time, like, it's really hard to know. And everything's so expensive. So you don't want to go and commit yourself to a course for 6 to 12 months. But I just found a couple of online platforms and then just tried to do exercise for a couple of hours a day, and then figure out what I enjoyed because there's no rhyme or reason. Everyone's so different. Some people love running. I've got so many friends that have reversed their mental health, and improved it by throwing themselves into running. But you just have to find ultimately what you enjoy. And then that's what I did. And it took me about 6 months and I shed at least 3 stone. Along that journey, I did try. God, have you heard all the drama about Ozempic? Have you heard about Ozempic? Everyone talks about
I've seen
Ozempic.
things. I don't know. I don't understand it fully, but yeah.
Yeah, basically, it's a diabetes drug that is used with weight loss. I think the NHS can prescribe it, but I used that for about a month, and that really helped me as well. But more importantly, that kickstarted my journey. But it was just, you know, now since then, I've just been on this. I never ever want to feel like that ever again. And also, it really, by exercising, it does relieve ADHD symptoms, but it does help me manage my day to day. So, back to your question, where you're like, how do you do it all? I slip backwards if I don't make sure I have at least 1 hour's exercise in some form every single day.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen immediately, but after like 2 weeks, I suddenly start to be sluggish, find everything a little bit overbearing. So I've sort of learned that, you know, look, we all slip off the path, right? But now I've sort of got the understanding that I'm getting carried away. Like, let's go back and then just bring that routine back and just, we're human, aren't we? We can't be perfect. Um, so yeah, that
I,
I don't know if I've gone off on a bloody tangent. Sorry, Simon.
yeah.
I get so excited.
No, no, you have, but in a very good way, and I do it as well. I go off on tangents, but it's just really interesting. I think really inspiring for anyone who's going to be listening to this as well. I really like when I asked the question of what was that switch and how like honest you were with what it was, and I not that I've been on that same journey as you, but and I don't know if we've had this conversation, but in when was it? Between Christmas and New Year 2022, you know when people wake up hungover and go, I'm never drinking again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In between Christmas and New Year 22, I'd had so many like Christmas events, and I where I worked before, you got paid a week before Christmas, and it was
Yeah.
between Christmas and New Year. I'm hanging out my backside, and
Oh my
I'm
God.
looking at my budget and going, this is a long day till it's a long time till payday, and I went, I'm just going to not drink. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. It's going to be New Year's Eve. Like, why don't you just quit on January 1st? It's like, no, it's a few days before New Year's. It's the whole diet starts on Monday. I went, no, I'm just not going to drink. Now, I went the whole of January not drinking, hadn't set myself a target. By the end of that month, I had so much clarity that I'd quit my job,
Yes.
set up a business. And then when I launched the business, I went, this needs to be a success. I know that I'm no longer in my early 20s, I'm early 30s. If I have a few drinks on a Friday, Saturday night, I'm still going to feel a bit shit midway through next week. So it's like, right,
Yeah.
just not drink. There are so many different events, weddings, birthdays I went to in 2023, but it's just like I'm not drinking. And I went that whole year without drinking, and business did all right. And I'm drinking again now, but got a much better control on it. I didn't have a problem. But it's like, for
Mm.
example, last night before we hit record, you're like, "Oh, how was the event last night?" It's like I took myself away from that event knowing I had calls this morning, whereas I think 2 years ago I would have stayed
You'd have
too
pushed the
late.
fuck it button.
Exactly. And I would have been feeling absolutely horrendous on this call. But it's
Yeah,
having that discipline. And I think you made the key point of there might be people listening to this who are already there or are not quite there of that self-awareness piece where
yeah,
you like you and I like to journal a lot. So writing, in the morning and at night, what's gone well, what could have gone better. And if I look back at personally and professionally, when am I living my best life? Just go back to my notes and it's whole success leaves clues. Oh, look, I walked the dogs. I got up early. I went a few weeks without
yeah,
drinking. I saw my friends, I played golf, and then you're like, okay. And when I was writing down, I feel shit, what was I doing? Oh, look, I was drinking quite a lot. I was working too much. I wasn't seeing
yeah,
friends, I wasn't playing golf. So, like,
100%.
the clues are there for it. But you said, just on the ADHD thing, I'm curious to just ask on that. Is
Yeah.
like, when did you know you had ADHD and like what?
So well, I was 30. So
Wow. Okay.
I at a very oh God, at the start of my career, sorry, I'm jumping back. I This will all be relevant. So when I started my career, I worked for that agency for about 2 to 3 years. Then one of my friend's dad set up an agency and he asked me to go and set that up with him, grow the lettings team, which I did. Within a year. We got them to a franchisable position. And then I actually went back to my original employment. Now, the point of what I'm saying, I remember exactly where I was in my car and I was driving around this roundabout and I remember thinking just before I made the step back to the original agency, I remember thinking everything is going as I planned. I am about to earn double the money. The strategy's worked. I've got a brand new car coming. Why am I not happy? All of these things I thought would make me so happy. And I actually picked up the phone to my granddad's ex-wife, who just happens to be a counselor. And I just said, "Oh, I'm sorry for the random call." I said, "But I'm having this moment and I don't understand why I'm not happy because these were all the things that you know, as a teenager have expected would make me happy. A brand new Mercedes, a really good salary, like, you know, growing myself like and my reputation within the industry and blah blah blah." And she went, "I am so proud of you. This is the first step to um you know going on the right journey." She was like, "All I can say to you is remember this moment, be grateful that you are this old, you're 20 or 21, and you are becoming self-aware,
Yeah.
right?" She was like, "It can only get better from here." So the truth is, I've on and off since that point had therapy. I've
Okay.
dipped in and out because I think it's really healthy. I mean, I don't know why there's such a stigma in the UK about it, because in America, you're weird if you don't have therapy. Like everyone has a therapist, right? So I've always been a big advocate for therapy. So I think that's played a huge part in my journey, right? So where were we? Let's go back to what we said because there was a pivotal point. So psychotherapy. So obviously during that journey, I was diagnosed with ADHD and it was like the penny dropped. But my psychotherapist said, "Layla, we don't need this on your record. Like you don't need an official diagnosis. You don't need defining. You don't need medication. You can manage with the tools I give you. You can manage, you know, with the self-awareness, just everything that you gain from psychotherapy plus exercising. You know what to do. Alcohol's a trigger. You don't, you control your drinking. You make sure you eat right. All of these things." And she's right. So when I was in the doctor's the other day and he asked me why I wasn't on ADHD meds, I looked at him and I was like, "Why do I need them? I know how to control myself. Like, I don't need to take." Look, some people do need medication. There's not one type. For
Yeah.
me personally, I can manage, it's a bloody superpower. Like going back to what you said at the beginning, how do you manage everything? I thrive off it. I
Yeah.
go into the most stressful situations with a big smile on my face, and I thrive off like turning like the worst situations into the most positive. Some people would go, fuck this, and jump off a cliff. I'm the total opposite. So I see it as a superpower. Why would I want to take a drug that's going to suppress my creative brain and my drive? For me personally, it won't work. So I'll never do it. I control it with fitness. I control it with cutting toxic people out of my life, keeping good, nice, genuine people around me that motivate me, stay true to my morals and values. I can sleep at night because I don't fuck people over for a living. I would rather lose money than do bad business, right? So it's just that balance of everything, you know. So that's it really. But try not to think about it too much. I talk about it as much as possible because I think it's important to raise awareness, not as a bit of a trend like, oh, I've got ADHD. Like it's quite bloody obvious to anyone listening to this podcast that I have ADHD. Like you'd have to be a raving lunatic to not see. But you know, it is what it is. Like it doesn't matter. I think if I can raise awareness, because women get sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here, but women go undiagnosed till later in life because we're very good at masking.
Yeah.
Now, I I think things have changed a lot since like we were at school.
Yeah.
Like I slipped the net, like I was just, you know, people would just say she's attention seeking and, you know, that's what people would say. They wouldn't go, oh, she's got ADHD because I'm not jumping around the room. And everyone's stereotypical idea of someone with
Yeah.
ADHD
Yeah.
is they're bouncing off the walls. The truth is, I'm not like, even now in this conversation, I'm having a burst of energy now because I'm getting excited. I'm enjoying the conversation with you, but I'm not like that all the time. Women do mask it much better than men. And that's why they go undiagnosed for, you know, a long period of time. But that's it, really. Um,
So,
it's definitely like brought a lot of peace because I felt like I was very different all my life. I've always felt a bit unusual, but
yeah.
now I've got that understanding, even in new relationships, business relationships. Obviously, I'm educating you on like what I'm like now because we're having this conversation. But when I enter into a personal relationship, whether that's a friendship or whatever, I do have slightly different behaviors to other people. So I try to explain how my brain works so they don't take offense.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
in case, I'm not an offensive person and I'm certainly not aggressive or anything like that. But just in case that makes me feel comfortable, then people have a level of understanding because there's a very autistic tendencies that are, you know, aligned with ADHD. I'm not autistic, but for example, how a person that has autism may behave in like a social environment, I very much have those tendencies. So, you know, in my comfort zone, my expert field, walking into someone's house, they would never even know. But then you put me in an environment where I'm walking into a new place, whether that's where we met, you know, at Samuel Leeds's um, event at Wembley, that causes me great anxiety. Like, you know, or going into a restaurant. Sometimes I have to tell the restaurant teams, like very quietly, not to make a thing, but I'll. The only way they understand how to help me is by, I know it's not naughty, but it's the only way that unfortunately people understand. But I'll say really quietly, I'm really autistic. Please, can you put me in the corner of the restaurant with my back against the wall?
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's the only way that I can concentrate in that moment or stay calm. Just to share that. I'm not autistic, but unfortunately, that terminology is the only way that
Yeah.
people understand how to, you know, handle me really. So, or make me comfortable. I'm very self-aware, so I like to make sure I'm not put into social settings that I'm
Yeah.
uncomfortable in. So I tell everyone.
I think it's incredible how self-aware you are, and it's made me think of there is a concept or analogy, I don't know what to call it, and basically the word. So you've got, let's say, when you first learn to drive a car, right? This is going to be my example. When I first got in a car with my dad on like a field, a farmer's field near my house at 17 years old, and he's like, right, put the car into first gear. I'm like, how do I do that? And he's like, what do you mean? You've seen me drive that all your life. How do you not know how to put a car into gear? I was like, never shown me before. So I was unconsciously incompetent. I had no idea how little I knew about driving a car. Anyway, put it into gear. He goes, find the biting point. I was like, what's a biting point?
Oh
So
God.
after that, we agreed we'd never get in a car together again for him to teach me. I've got an instructor. But at that
Yeah.
point, I've gone from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent. I realized how little I knew about driving.
Yeah.
Then you pass your driving test and you become consciously competent. So you
Yeah.
know how to drive a car, but you're having to remember to do everything, right? Then once you started driving for a while, you're unconsciously competent. So I could drive from home to work and go, shit, did I stop at those traffic lights? Did I stop at that zebra crossing? Did I give way at that roundabout?
Yeah.
I can't remember. So, and it's going on that journey. And again, there might be people listening to this in terms of that journey of self-awareness where they might be like, oh, I'm at the consciously competent, and then you're at the clearly you're at the unconsciously competent stage. But just on a few other bits you said, God, I've made so many notes from what you were saying. When you said about like being told that you had ADHD at the age you were, it reminded me of Sam Thompson. I don't know if you saw his
Yeah.
documentary, and I
Yeah.
it made me think a lot about that, and I found it so fascinating. And I went to watch this is really random now. I went to watch him and Pete Wicks do their Staying Relevant podcast live,
Really?
and
How was it?
unbelievable. I had no idea what to expect, but it was absolutely brilliant. And Pete and Sam complement each other very well. Pete's organising the whole thing, and Sam was just running around stage. He's in the crowd, and he's like a golden retriever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
kind of vibes. But he's absolutely brilliant. I've seen him say to children who have got ADHD since that it's his superpower.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. And just on the therapy coaching side of things, and you said like how in it does have this like stigma in our country, and in America it's very normal. I went to watch, as you can tell, I go to lots of these kind of things. I went to watch Dan Carter on the High Performance podcast,
Yeah.
so ex-New Zealand fly half. He said at the start of his career, it would be very weird if someone was talking to a sports psychologist. It would be like, are you okay? Why are you talking to a psychologist? At the end of his career, the senior players would say to junior players, you're weird for not speaking to a psychologist.
Yeah.
It's funny how it goes full circle on that. And I think just like this whole conversation around knowing yourself, being very self-aware, but then also understanding of others as well, I think is so important in the field that we
Definitely.
work in.
Well, do you know what? On that note, so I've had really in my so I launched Silver Birch in 2017. So my team that I have now have been my team for 3 years. But prior to that, I've had some brilliant girls work for me. But when I look back at myself in management position, having not been diagnosed, for example, in the earlier part, um, you know, it's by understanding and then looking inwards, it helps me not only because the team have a lot of more understanding for me because I can explain sometimes I behave like that. So there's a level of understanding because I've explained it and I've shared it, but also for the way that I react with them. So I found myself getting really frustrated with people because I'd be like, why can't you? I think I've said this, but like, why can't you do it as quickly as me? Why are you so incompetent? Like, I would never speak to anyone like that. In
Yeah,
my
yeah,
head, I'm thinking, oh, why can't, I'd give someone a task and they'd go, yeah, yeah, in a minute, I'm just doing something. And I'm thinking, what do you mean you'll do it in a minute? It's urgent. Like, do it now, now, now. Because to me, if you honestly, it would probably make some people sick. I have about 20 screens up on my laptop. I walk around with two phones, but that's my comfortable place. I like to hop between tasks and I do them thoroughly. But no, most, um, uh, obviously a neurodiverse brain like is fine with that, but neurotypical brains can't cope with that. It overwhelms them, and by not understanding why I was behaving like that, I just thought I was a bloody a mood hoover. Do you know what I mean? Like, why am I so angry and frustrated with management? That's because I didn't know. So now I know and I'm open about it. The team enjoy those high moments where I have this burst of adrenaline and I'm going a million miles an hour and making stupid noises, which is very rare. But and they've just got that understanding when you know, we work better together, put it that way.
Yeah.
And it's just made my business relationship stronger. Um, and I navigate appointments depending on how I might behave. So I've tracked myself so well down to my menstrual cycle. So I know when I'm particularly going to behave in a certain way. And what I actually do is keep myself away from my team to protect them. Because if I'm going to behave in a certain way, which will only happen once a month, the safest place for everyone is for me to work remotely because I can still do my job. But do you know what I mean? So it's just having
Yeah.
that awareness. Yeah. And it's just made everything in business that probably since diagnosis, my businesses have gone from strength to strength to strength. The self-awareness, like you said when you were explaining about, identifying when you've drank and you feel, you're not performing, and the minute you stop drinking, you performed. It's no different. Like the ADHD diagnosis gave me so much mental clarity. The self-awareness by putting all of that work in has made everything flourish. Like I'm the best. Look, nothing's perfect. Life isn't perfect, but I'm the happiest I've ever been. And to be honest, I'm still navigating. I said to you just before we switched on, I'm just about to do the biggest deal of my career. And I wish I could tell you about it, but I've not signed the paperwork. And I'm like, most people will be having a nervous breakdown over the amount of stuff I'm doing at the moment, but I'm just in such a good place. Like I'm taking it, I'm just riding with it and just going with it. But that takes a lot of effort, and it's not an overnight thing. Like if you want to be in a good place, you've got to invest in yourself. And I love that you do so much. Well, you do so much work on yourself. I mean, continuously growing and educating yourself on. And I find you very inspiring, actually.
I appreciate that. I think so. You've just reminded me actually. I wrote down and circled it when you said unfulfilled, and I smiled when you said it because uh I always wanted to be an estate agent. Don't know why.
Yeah.
And I did it, and I absolutely loved it. And my aim was to run my own branch, and I ran my own branch, and it was making profit every year, and loads of Google reviews, one of the most successful branches in the business. And then I was sat there going, so I'm in a relationship, I own a house, I've got the job I always wanted, I'm driving the car I wanted to. And to your point, I sat there feeling really shit, unfulfilled. But I didn't know what I was mi what was missing. And that was really
Yeah.
frustrating. It was like I've got everything I ever wanted. And I didn't know what it was, but I just continued to learn and try and improve myself and whatnot. And because I put myself in that area of luck, let's say, by improving myself, I then got approached by Home Search, the company I worked at in January 2020. And I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be doing the podcast. We wouldn't be having this conversation if I just stayed unfulfilled, like in my comfort zone in my employed role in a state agency. So I think
No.
in a really inspiring conversation. So you very much inspire me. I'm glad that I inspire you, and hopefully the people listening as well will take inspiration from this conversation. As I said earlier, it's a very very different conversation to what I usually have, and I had no idea how this conversation would go. But there was a
I
couple
don't bloody know how it's going to go with me either.
I there was a couple of bits I kind of wanted to really delve into from the conversations we've had and from what I've seen online, and I think we've done that. And as we just come towards the end of the podcast now, I normally have my Stephen Bartlett Diary of a CEO conversation cards where I pull one of
Oh, I
those out.
love them. I love
Okay,
them.
well, annoyingly, because I'm on location today and I'm not at home, I don't have
Location,
the card.
location,
Yeah.
location,
But
honey.
I asked this question when I didn't have my cards on another podcast recently as well. So I just want to ask, in your last 8 years or so of business ownership, what's been the best piece of advice you've been given, do you think?
Given. I've been
No,
given.
no, sorry, you have been given. Someone's given you.
the best piece of advice anyone's ever given me is stop worrying. Stop worrying about the fine detail. Just keep looking forwards and go and make some bloody money. And from that, genuinely, like you could what I'm trying to explain is you can get bogged down with the day to day. You just got to keep looking forwards. And that conversation came from an accountant, hence the relevance to money, because actually I'm not money oriented at all. That's not what drives me in the success of any of my businesses. But so that statement completely conflicts everything that I'm saying. But the person that gave me that advice was my accountant, because in the very early days of my business, I was terrified. I was so scared. And I was like, what do you mean, the fat man? And because for me, I was like, remember, I hadn't been diagnosed with ADHD. So I'm like, so what dates, what do you mean a quarter? What do you mean a half? So how am I going to work out how much is fat? Do I need to move? I was getting so bogged down and I was like, I don't think I could do this. And that's where the conversation stemmed from. And I sat there and I was like, but I don't think I can do this. I was so worried. I was so worried about all of that stuff. Obviously, it's important. Compliance is important. Paying your taxes is important. Being organized. But obviously, the simple answer is there's people out there that are experts in their field that you can
Yeah,
outsource this stuff to. And what he was trying to say to me is, Layla, this stuff you aren't good at. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about the small. I say small stuff, it's not small stuff, but don't worry about that stuff. Focus on what you're good at and go and make money and make a success. So I always hold on to stuff like that. That's why he was the first person that sprung to mind. But it's true.
well, I think
It's
the key point on that, so to cut across you, Leila, is that, like I said earlier in the podcast about this is called opening the gates to more listings. And what you've just described there is if it's something you're not good at, delegate it to someone who's better so that you can be sat in people's living rooms building relationships because that's what's going to earn the money, right? You trying to figure
100%.
out how to do your taxes and pay the VAT, whatever. And it's like, well, that's moving you away from making the business money. And it's like put yourself in the places where you're your strongest and delegate it to other people.
100%. And I know this sounds a bit, well, take it as you will, it's who I am. So on that note, like some people like to save money, that's lovely. They would rather do their accounts or taxes themselves because they want to stay in control or they want to save money. You know, I literally give that example all the time when people are like, why do you get your hair blow dried twice a week? Why don't you wash your own hair? Are you like a princess? No, I'm not a princess. But that blow dry cost me £30, right? Me sat in that chair while someone else is washing my hair and blow drying my hair, and I have my laptop there and I've got my two phones. The amount of money and business I can do sat in that chair when they are better at doing my bloody hair, it's a no-brainer. And some of the most successful people I speak to are exactly the same. Like when you catch them later in life and they're living their peak and they're like, oh, I've got a chef or, you know, and then when we actually break it down, the reason that they've got those things is that's not their skill set. They don't have time to worry about their nutrition and go to the supermarket. And actually, when they work out the cost of paying someone else to do it and then maximize their time where they could be growing their business, that's my mindset really. By factoring, I get ready in the morning, go to the salon, they'll do my hair. I'm already ready, but I'm already working. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's one example, but you just need to hone in on your skill set. Like you can try and save money by running your own social media and stuff like that. I run all my own social media, but that's because I absolutely love it. And I think you should keep parts of your business that you love and you enjoy, but some people might not be good at social media, and there's no point in trying to save money by, for example, doing your own social media if you're no good at it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it's
100.
just knowing your strengths and making sure that your time is readily available to, like you say, go out, meet new clients, network, not in the formal sense because I don't agree with it, but meet new people, and maximize your time. Leave the hair and whatever to people that are really good at doing it. Because, anyway, that's just my opinion.
So just so a couple of things on what you said there as we wrap up. The on the God, I've just lost my train of thought. What was I going to say?
We were
Um,
just talking about making sure you spend the time on the stuff, invest your time in the stuff that you're good at, and
yeah,
delegate work to the people that are actually experts, in their
yeah,
field.
that's it. I was in Manchester the other day for work, and I looked at the initially looked at the cost of the train ticket there and back, and I was like, "You taking the piss? How much money it costs trains these days?" I was like, "That's absolutely crazy." But then I looked at it, I went, "Well, I'm going to be from Milton Keynes to Manchester. I think it was like an hour and a half." I was like, "Okay, so
Yeah,
I can drive, but it's going to take me 3.5 hours." And I was like, well, that's an extra 2 hours each way. That's an extra 4 hours I'm going to lose. How much can I get done on that train in the 4 hours or 4 hours I'm saving? So it's like, okay, so I'm paying more money, but in the 4 hours I've just bought back, I'm going to earn more money. So
yeah.
it's your point as well. So I think, yeah, a lot of estate agents listening to this can definitely learn from what we're saying there.
Sorry, it's not business related. Only I would pluck having my hair blow dried as an
No,
example,
but
but that's
but it
just who I
No, but it completely makes sense. I think that like you get super successful people who again will have like a chef or they'll or let's say ordering their shopping online, it comes it like gets delivered. And I think I like to go to a shop. I'm one of these people who I like to go down every aisle because I might miss something. And actually,
am. Yeah, I'm the same actually.
right? It wastes so much time because I end up not getting anything, but I enjoy it. However, it would make more sense to just do the shop online. And if you know you're going to eat the same thing, drink the same thing every week, you just keep rinse and repeating the order. Well, that time I save on driving to the shop, going around the shop, driving home, all that. So actually, I could earn money in that time. But then
Well,
again,
you could also be
balance.
doing a podcast, honey.
Well, exactly. But it also goes back to your point around, but the things you enjoy. So again, I do. I mean, it's not rocket science, but I do my social media. I don't want to outsource that to someone because it's something I enjoy. And whilst I have in my diary always things that can be posted, I never quite know when I might post that because there might be just an opportune moment to do something. But I don't want to something go out and it be scheduled and you can tell it's not coming from me. Do you know what I mean? Like,
100%. On that note, I've got an incredible marketing consultant that I've just started working with to help me. Like, for example, I've only just got onto LinkedIn. Can you believe it? What the hell? I've been hiding from LinkedIn because I saw it as this ugly formal place where people just are a bit raw.
yeah,
So I've been educated and I've been learning. Anyway, why am I telling you this? Oh yeah. So there's some things, for example, that I've learned from her, and she was like, Layla, you're picking up everything I'm saying and you're actioning it straight away. Some people take half a year to get to this
yeah,
point, and I'm like, well, lucky me. Hopefully, it's not going to cost me so much. But the point being, she on your scheduled posts, she said to me, right, one thing she said to me that I don't agree with is, you should post on these days at this time and rah rah rah. Technically, she's right, depending on the content. My content doesn't work scheduled because when execute it, like you've just said, it's delivered with passion in the
yeah,
moment.
yeah,
Some of my posts have gone out at 11 o'clock at night, and some people will be like, why would you do that? Because at 11 o'clock at night, when I'm reflecting and, you know, in that moment, I'm thinking about whatever and I want to share something, that's when it comes out. I can't hold it or schedule it or wait because right in that moment, that's what the energy is feeling. And I want to be really authentic. So it gets the right reach and it always does well. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
that authenticity piece, and I think you said it earlier on in the conversation about that's so key because people buy people, right? And I think that if everything says, right, this is when you should, and again, I'm no social media expert, but if it's like this is how the algorithm works, this is when you should post and how many times and whatnot, I kind of look at it and it's like when I started the business, best part of 2 years ago, I wrote down on one piece of paper all the advice I got given by people. I did
Yeah.
the complete opposite.
Yeah.
So I went, well, if that's what they're all saying, surely there is a market to do the complete opposite. So to give you an example, lots of people said in the digital world we live in, just do everything in groups, do it all over Zoom. That's the best way to not do too much work, make more money, whatever. And I went, do you know what? I'm going to go everywhere. I'm going to go meet loads of people around the country and I'm going to plaster it all over social media. And I never get sick and tired of people saying to me, I see you everywhere. When I was at an event yesterday,
Well
Simon,
done.
I see you everywhere, I see you everywhere, I see you everywhere. That like you must have cloned yourself. No, no, there's only one of me. But and then I'm trying to practice what I preach to agents is that that was the point I was going to say. Networking. You said around not in the typical like business sense. And I think that again, networking has this negative connotation, but if you network in the right way, like for example, we both attended that event at Wembley and it's culminated in this podcast happening. That
100%.
that was networking. It wasn't like a business event where you all sit in the middle and put your business cards
I
in and
just, yeah,
pitch your business.
that's 100%. I completely agree. Networking in its true sense, which is what we've done, I'm totally comfortable with. The formality, funnily enough, I was speaking to someone yesterday that had just been to an event and he has ADHD and he's a hugely successful entrepreneur. And he said, the first thing he said to me was, Layla, you'd have died. He was like, I walked into this event. Everyone's got their flash cars outside. They're all rich. We're all there for the same purpose. And it was boring. There was no atmosphere. Everyone was awkward. He was like, I had to go in there and bloody shake it up. And I was like, go on, lad. I was like, I'd have done exactly the same thing. He was like, I stayed true to myself. He was like, everyone was bloody formal in their suits and being raw. And yeah, he was like, no, I'm there in my fluorescent jacket and, getting round and doing my thing. And yeah, yeah, it's networking in its true form, which is what we do and what we do because of digital, right? Um, is great.
Yeah, 100%. Right. That is the end of the
I
podcast.
love that we haven't even spoken about business.
No, but I think again, all these different podcast episodes I do with a variety of different people who have got connections to the industry in one way or another. They're all slightly
Oh,
different.
hopefully there's some
But
value in it for
I
someone.
I know, and I mean this in the nicest way. I know, and this is why I think it's a great conversation. There'll be some people who will listen and go, not quite my episode. And then there's going to be people who are like, this is the episode I was wanting. They didn't even know they wanted it. And I know it's going to resonate with a lot of people. So I'm super, super grateful. So everyone listening, like, subscribe, review, share, all that jazz. And that just leaves me to say, Layla, thank you very much for being an amazing guest. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for your time, darling.